This week on Quality Digest Live, the psychology of Six Sigma.
Plus, setting goals and achieving success. That and more when we come back. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for October 26th, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher Mike Richman. First up in the news this week is a story that comes to us from ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. ANSI is adding their voice to the increased calls for a greater focus on addressing the so-called skills gap within industry. According to ANSI board member Kenneth W. Bird, what's needed is a new post-secondary training system that would award industry-accepted, skill-focused credentials to community college students and other workers considering careers in manufacturing. Earlier this year, ANSI hosted a workplace development forum that explored many of these ideas. They concluded that such a system would foster better matches between employers and potential employees. It would also ensure that those taking jobs within industry had a validated set of skills and were ready to contribute to the new organizations in a substantive way from day one. Now, Dirk, we've seen this, and this has been something we've been covering a lot lately. Certainly, right. Now we see ANSI jumping in on it, but SME, NIST, our good friends at CMSC, all of whom have addressed this topic in various ways over the course of the last couple of months. This idea that there's a skills gap. We need more workers within manufacturing, and some of these particular skills, like arc welding, is one. Machinists. There's a real dearth of these people coming into the industry. So what are we going to do to support community colleges and other training institutions to help make sure that these people not only come in, but are also ready to work and are validated, have a set of skills that really are applicable to what the job openings are? Right,
and I think we're seeing that across the board in pretty much all industry sectors, is the associations for those various industry sectors are jumping on the bandwagon. And I think they've always had educational programs, but I think we've seen a real ramp up in terms of organizations being more proactive in getting the training message out there in order to support their particular industries. In our case, it happens to be manufacturing, but we're seeing it really, if you look in the media, you're seeing it across the board. There's a lot of emphasis on getting skills training up at an earlier point in time in high school and in early college and so forth.
We're going to see more of it going forward, so keep an eye on it going forward.
Okay, we ran across an interesting little piece of equipment this past week. How about doing surface measurement using your Android phone? I don't mean that your phone's actually going to do the surface measurement, although that would actually be pretty cool.
Really cool.
Just kind of set your phone up there and it would do a surface measurement. But actually, we're close to it. The MarSurf 1 Android app interfaces your phone, your smartphone, your Android phone, via Bluetooth with a MAR RD18 drive unit and probe to measure the most popular roughness parameters, including RA, RZ, RMAX, RT, and RQ. So basically, you are controlling the RD18 and collecting the data with your phone. So using multi-finger gestures, as we're all familiar with on our smartphones, the resulting profiles can be zoomed for instant analysis, they can be saved, converted to PDF, synced or emailed for display, and analysis on other devices such as your PC. So we are seeing more of this day by day, month by month. We keep running across different apps that are used in industrial applications to use your smartphone or your whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, to control various pieces of equipment using the phone as an interface. And there's a lot of smarts in this, and MAR actually even admits you could get this same probe within a larger system, the same measurement system with a larger system, and pay more for it. But if you want something that's streamlined and actually a little bit less cost, you keep the user interface part in your phone. That eliminates actually part of their larger system, and then you're just controlling the actual guts of the machine, the actual working part of the machine, the actual surface measurement part with your app. And you actually save a little bit of money. And actually your phone can be used to control other instrumentation apps as well, as we know. We've covered several of them on the show. So.
Well, it makes sense, because I mean, these phones now, you look at a phone today versus even 4 years ago, 2 years ago, so much power is in your phone.
Right.
So much computational power, so much ability to do so many things that it's just, it's amazing. And we're seeing this more and more, really driving down to the levels of manufacturing on the shop floor.
Technology, it's grand.
Pretty cool stuff, yeah, no doubt. Okay, finally in the news this week, in a not unexpected move, the Baldrige organization has announced that their fee structure is increasing significantly for the 2013 award cycle. Of course, as we reported earlier this year, federal funding for the Baldrige program has been eliminated. So these changes, which cover not only the application but the site visit fees as well, were pretty much inevitable. You know, Dirk, it's a sign of the times. I mean, the federal government, we knew this was happening in the latest budget deal. The federal government's going to continue to step away from funding things like this. And it was interesting when we talked about this, and we had Harry Hertz on with us a few months back, gosh, more than half a year ago. We had commented, Harry, that we got a lot of comments from readers who said, well, it's not the role, even though I'm a quality assurance person, it's not the role of the federal government to be funding a program like the Baldrige. Well, got what we asked for.
Right.
I mean, those readers who requested that got what they asked for. There is no funding now, but what we're seeing is more than a doubling here of the fee structure for some of these applications. Now, what we're going to find out is, well, it's certainly going to have an effect on the number of applicants. What we're going to find out is how many applicants it is going to affect.
Well, remember, but they're also picking up extra revenue because you can actually get an examination, a Baldrige examination now, even without having to be part of without having to be part of the awards program or anything. So that's actually going to pick it up.
It should a little bit as well. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you know, this past week we had actually an interesting story that was on Kaiser Permanente. And on that story, we actually had a reader write in with a question. And I'm just getting to the question here now. Let's see, I believe it's up on the screen.
Yeah, there it is, okay.
And actually, I just want to take care of this before we get into our first feature, because we actually have somebody on the phone right now that's actually going to answer this question with us. But this was in relationship to the Kaiser Permanente story, which is a big HMO, and they had received several number ones in their quality of health care, and these were awarded by the National Committee for Quality Assurance. Now, if you're not familiar, the NCQA is a nonprofit organization whose goal is to drive improvement throughout the healthcare system, helping to elevate the issue of healthcare quality to the top of the national agenda. And the question from our viewer was, will the implementation of Obamacare and its added cost to the healthcare industry place a strain on the health insurance industry to the point that they will find themselves cutting QA activities, quality assurance activities, to make ends meet, or have their quality programs proven to be a value-added activity that has been an indispensable element of continual cost-cutting efforts? And on the phone with us right now to hopefully answer that question is Paul Cotton, Director of Federal Affairs for the NCQA. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Dirk?
Oh, pretty good. So what about that question? Will the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as it's now being called by, I guess, both sides of the aisle, will that actually improve the quality of health care, in your opinion?
It will. The statute has a number of provisions that are designed to help health plans and providers improve the quality of care. For example, all health plans will now have to have quality improvement programs. The law is going to set up state health insurance exchanges to expand coverage to people who can't afford it today. And in these state health insurance exchanges, there are very specific requirements for the plans on quality. First of all, they have to have accreditation based on their local performance on clinical quality and patient experience of care measures. And those are both going to be posted on the website in report cards that are going to help people who are choosing plans pick a plan not just on the low premium, but on which plan is actually providing the best value for the premium dollar. That's going to encourage the plans to compete, again, not just on a cheap premium, but on a high quality, high value plan that's going to drive quality up throughout the system that will influence all the other plans. In the Medicare Advantage program, very specifically, it also has some very powerful pay-for-performance incentives that have been implemented. Before the law was passed, all the Medicare Advantage plans received more than it cost to care for their enrollees in the traditional Medicare program. What the new law does is rolls back those excess payments across the board, and instead only provides bonuses to those plans that have high quality scores. Again, those plans that get those high-quality scores are going to get those bonuses that will enable them to have lower cost sharing, lower premium, extra benefits. That's going to make them more competitive in the market. We are already seeing in our own evaluation of the HEDIS numbers this year and in the star ratings that Medicare announced earlier this month that the plans have really stepped up to the plate and improved the quality of care because now their bonus payments aren't tied to their clinical quality and patient experience scores. So again, there's just a number of provisions in the law that are promoting quality and making a good, solid business case for plans to continue these very, very important and effective quality improvement programs.
Well, Paul, I guess backing up a little bit is, particularly on the Medicare aspect of it, is kind of hearkening back to what maybe what I think the viewer was questioning is if the Medicare payouts are less, do you think there's going to be, in some cases, rather than trying to improve efficiency and quality and so forth, that people will simply cut corners because they're not going to be getting the same amount of Medicare money?
No, because if they cut those corners, they are going to have lower quality and patient experience scores. If they have low quality and patient experience scores, they will not get the bonus payments that they need to be most competitive. They won't be able to provide additional benefits, and they won't be able to have lower cost sharing and premium. That creates a very powerful market incentive for the plans to take these quality initiatives very seriously. And what we're seeing, both anecdotally from the plans that we talk to and in our evaluation of their scores, that they are starting to make some very impressive improvements in quality because they really want those bonus payments based on their quality scores. Okay,
so basically you're saying the feedback there, in order to keep the system in check, is if they cut corners, it's going to show up in their quality scores. If it shows up in their quality scores, then one way or another they're going to end up paying for it.
Yeah, and it's a very competitive disadvantage. It's using market forces to promote quality.
Okay. Well, Paul, thank you for joining us for a few minutes. It's an interesting topic, and I realize you're at an airport right now, so hopefully we'll be able to get back to you and do a little bit more talking later on.
Sure, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Again, that was Paul Cotton, Director of Federal Affairs for NCQA.
Joining us from, I believe, at O'Hare Airport.
Yeah, from O'Hare. So thank you for making time for that. If you have questions, we want to hear from you. Yep. Certainly, if you have questions, feedback on this or other topics we're discussing on the show. I have a feeling we may get some feedback on a topic we're going to be covering a little later. So we encourage everyone to write us at qdl@qualitydigest.com. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll get them on the air. We'll get the experts on to address the questions that you have, and we'll give you that feedback.
Okay. Well, forget about politics. Forget about religion. If you want to really get the blood boiling with our readers, talk about statistics.
And Six
Sigma, CPK, non-normal distributions, 1.5 sigma shift. I'm telling you, them's fighting words.
Them's fighting words, man.
That's right. Well, we ran an opinion piece this week by Six Sigma cynic Anthony Burns. In his column, Burns said that Six Sigma is basically a bunch of hooey. Mm-hmm. And it is, I think he's actually even used that word at times, and it's because of a herd mentality that people follow it. His main arguments are that, number one, Motorola's Bill Smith said that you could improve quality by widening specifications, which actually he did sort of say. If you can get your hands on the September 1993 IEEE Spectrum, you can read actually a really fascinating article from the early days of Six Sigma by Bill Smith, and it's interesting because it really does kind of set the scene for where we're at today in some ways. And Burns' second argument was that the 1.5 sigma shift, which was one of the main Six Sigma technical talking points back in the day, we're talking 30 years ago, is a bunch of statistical mumbo-jumbo. So Burns asserts that both of these taken together show that Six Sigma is based on bad assumptions and bad statistics and is just plain wrong. Needless to say, his article got a lot of comments. Some disputed his facts, some thought he was living in the 70s. Actually, that's kind of my opinion. Sorry, Tony. I love you, man, but, and I'll get back to that in a bit. And some thought he was actually right on the money. In general, I'd say that most people agreed with the gist of what Tony was saying, even if they thought he was being a little loose with his logic. His point being that people follow programs even if the program is based on faulty science. In his case, he's talking about widening specifications or the 1.5 sigma shift. And here's a comment from Quality Digest reader Mitchell Komarmi, who kind of lines this up. The premise of the article was that people are often not able to challenge unsound statistical practices because they are afraid of challenging the flavor of the month, especially if it is flavored by management and served up by high-priced consultants. Based on what I have seen in my 20 years in manufacturing, his insight is spot on. Another reader, A. Kolker, wrote, I support the spirit and the message of Dr. Burns' publication in QD. He has the courage to raise a dissenting voice on the value and scientific foundations of Six Sigma. I agree that Six Sigma foundations are flawed. I think Tony raised a bit of a straw man argument, in my opinion. My one disagreement with Tony is that I think the 1.5 Sigma shift thing is pretty much a non-issue anymore. And I think that's the straw man. He builds a lot of his argument against Six Sigma, and Tony writes a lot on this. You'll see his comments very often on any Six Sigma article. He builds a lot of his arguments based on the 1.5 Sigma shift. And that may be valid, but my understanding, and I'm no expert, is that today's Six Sigma programs are much more about DMAIC and reducing variation. I can't think of the last time I heard someone talk about that darn shift. So in my opinion, bad science or not, and I don't know if it's bad science or not, I'm not a statistician, but bad science or not, the 1.5 Sigma shift, I think, is a non-issue. It's not what Six Sigma at its practice today is all about. And now one of our readers, I think, agreed with this. This was from Ronald. Mr. Burns obviously has no clue regarding Six Sigma and the impact on the industrial world it has had. The Six Sigma shift is really unimportant in the Six Sigma world. The DMAIC process is the key to Six Sigma projects. This is what made Six Sigma such a powerful entity. Several other comments in there agreed with that. They made statements similar to that, and I think it's important. If you can write Six Sigma off as a fad or bad science or whatever. The real question is, how do you use it, and are you getting value out of your Six Sigma program or any program? I mean, with any continuous improvement program, whether it's TQM or Six Sigma or whatever, it's not really the program or the tool. It's about how
you apply it.
You apply it. Here's what I think. And feel free to jump in on this. I think Six Sigma is just a synonym anymore, I think. Six Sigma is just a synonym for any quality improvement program that seeks to reduce variation using DMAIC and a variety of statistical tools. Mm-hmm. I think if you, I was thinking about this either. I think if you were to take the training materials for, let's say, a TQM program or any of the old, let's say, FAD programs, if you were to take those, strip the name TQM or whatever out of it, Joe's improvement program. Sure. Strip that out, put Six Sigma in it, drop it into the curriculum today, Six Sigma curriculum today. I don't think anybody would notice the difference. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. I really think that a lot of the old programs that were DMAIC and statistics-based and root cause analysis and all that are kind of what Six Sigma has become, mm-hmm. except it's more formalized, and people just call it all Six Sigma, regardless of whether it's really the original Six Sigma or not, which I think a lot of it isn't. And I think that's the problem with Tony's argument, is a lot of it harkens back to the really early days of Six Sigma, where a lot of this jargon was tossed around in the 1.5 Sigma shift. I just don't think that's what it is anymore.
Well, let me support Anthony's argument a little bit here, because I think another thing he's saying here is that DMAIC is really just PDCA in a different cloak. Right. So he's saying, heck, PDCA has been around for decades, and it's worked effectively. Why do we need to muck that up with the statistical mumbo-jumbo of Six Sigma, where if the Sigma shift, the underpinnings of this statistically are not valid, the Sigma shift doesn't matter, and 3.4 DPMO really doesn't matter or isn't valid for whatever reason, depending on what your process capability really is, then why are we calling it Six Sigma? Why is it the Six Sigma with the big S's as opposed to Six Sigma with the small S's? That's what he's talking about here. Is this become a marketing tool?
Well, sure.
Should it be? Well, yeah, sure.
Of course it has.
Of course. But that's his argument, I think. The heart of it is that DMAIC is PDCA in a different cloak, and let's just call it PDCA and let's get away from Six Sigma. Yeah. I'm not necessarily arguing that's right or wrong. I'm just saying I think that's underneath the straw man, that's what I think is going on here.
And I agree with you. I think that is his point. He's saying it's based on flawed assumptions. My point is, okay, who cares?
Right.
And I'm sorry, maybe that's like, bad things to say, who cares? But if nobody's really working from those assumptions anymore anyway, does it matter?
Well, what I liked about this article was that I loved, my favorite thing about QDD every day is reading the comments from the readers. I love that. I love it. And I love when we do something like this, because I think that this really, selfishly, from the perspective of working for Quality Digest, I think this is what makes us relevant. Right. Is that we present these types of things in the marketplace, and we don't really have a dog in the fight here. We really don't. I mean, our concept here is to bring you, our user, these ideas from various spectrums of belief in the quality assurance industry, and let you guys duke it out. You guys and gals duke it out. I mean, we want to referee it and make sure that it stays collegial and professional. But I think that these are necessary, very necessary core issues that a media company like ours in this industry needs to be bringing out. So, I think we're going to try to do more of this going forward.
We've got a viewer actually who's actually wrote in during the show. You got a slide for that, Christopher? Oh, I'll just turn around and look at it. Okay, this just in from a reader, real time here. Regarding Six Sigma, the article reminded me of this. There is perhaps no beguilement more insidious and dangerous than an elaborate and elegant mathematical process built upon unfortified premises. Thomas Chamberlain, geologist. Agreed, though the magic is in the method of improvement, not the label.
Good
well,
point.
thank you, Lee.
Good point.
And by the way, guys, by the way, anytime during the show you want to comment on something, shoot us an email and we'll try to get to it live on the show.
Yeah, QDL@qualitydigest.com. So this is an ongoing argument. It's going to be something that we're going to touch on, I'm sure, going forward many times, and continue to write us. Let us know what you think about this. Wherever you stand on the spectrum, let's continue to get the conversation going and keep that going.
So now to something a little softer.
A little softer, yeah. One of my real favorite authors, and someone we haven't covered on this show before, is Michelle LaBrosse. And Michelle LaBrosse owns and has founded an organization by the name of Cheetah Learning. Right. And anytime you see Michelle, you see a picture of Michelle, she's always got the cheetah skin stuff on. She knows branding. That woman knows branding, let me tell you. Well, Michelle wrote an article for us that appeared in Tuesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily, entitled Breaking Through to Success. Breaking Through to Success. And there's a little picture of Michelle there. We'll have a picture of her later in the show as well, in her little cheetah outfit. And Breaking Through to Success was the name of the article. And again, I really like this one because it dealt with something that we all, I think, need to be aware of, which is setting and achieving goals, right? Now, she talks about it from a professional perspective in this piece, but my take on it was that setting goals really is both personal and professional, right? You need to have the same tools, the same process to set a goal and to make your goals, achieve your goals professionally as you do in your work, in your personal life, and the one will feed into the other. In other words, what will happen here is that you will, when you achieve goals that you set personally, that will help you achieve your goals professionally, and vice versa. They kind of feed off one another. And there's a couple of things she talks about here that I think are specifically good, that I really liked in this piece. The one thing she talks about is avoid limiting beliefs. She talks about this, and I think that's something that a lot of us do that we shouldn't do, is that our actions, our affect says that we really don't believe in something, or that we say, well, gosh, I can't do that. It's not my skill set. I've never done that well. I'm not going to be able to do that well. Don't ask me to do that well. I'm not going to set that goal because I'm going to fail at it. All those things that you do, all those negative limiting beliefs, what are they going to do? They keep you from achieving your goals. Right. Ultimately, you're not going to get there if your belief system is such that you say you can't do it. So turn that around. Whenever you feel yourself saying, well, I haven't done that in the past. Don't say, my experience tells me I can't do it. Say, I'm going to do it this time, and this is how I'm going to get there. So turn that negative into a positive. Don't limit yourself. That's one good thing. Another thing is say no. Do you say no a lot? You're a nice guy. You're very open.
I have a hard time saying no.
You have a tough time saying no. I have a tough time saying no too. And this is, in terms of goal setting, this is not a good thing.
It's not a good thing, right?
You want to be able. You got to be able to. You want to be able to, within the framework of who we are and what we do. You want to be able to turn it off. If somebody comes to you with a project and you're already overloaded, you got to be able to say, no, I'm busy. Ties in with something that Michelle talks about, which is time boxing. If you really want to achieve a goal, what you want to do is you want to box out a half an hour. She recommends a half an hour, but it could be more. You want to box out a half an hour to address that particular goal in a day. Nothing else matters. You say no to everything else that's going on. If you do that, you'll be a lot closer to achieving your goal. And finally, what she refers to is the idea that you can't wait. You can't wait. And there's a quote she has, which I love. I've used it before, and I want to throw it up on the screen share because to me it's really, really valid. And what Michelle writes is that a wise Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
Right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Carpe diem, right?
Carpe diem.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that really is a Chinese proverb. I think that actually was a Jewish proverb. But regardless, I mean, carpe diem, maybe it was a Latin proverb. I don't know. But it was a proverb, and it means take advantage of now. Right. Now is the moment that we have, right? The present is a gift, all that kind of stuff. That's why they call it the present, right? Take advantage of now. If you want to, if you have a goal, if you know what you want to do it. Start walking towards that goal now, and that you'll be that much closer to achieving it. So this is a good piece. Again, Breaking Through to Success by Michelle LaBrosse. Like all the stories that we're covering today, it's right below the player page right there. You can link out to it and check that out. And
you may not have much time to pursue your goals. At least this was according to a shocking article last week by Greg Fox.
Of minitab.
It's amazing that mainstream media hasn't reported on it. The data that Greg Fox collected for his article on basically the end of times, he gathered from the internet and then analyzed that data using one of the premier statistical analysis software. And it shows that time on Earth is short. It's very short indeed.
Yes.
In his earth-shattering analysis, Greg Fox describes how he has noticed that lately it has been getting darker earlier and earlier. Some of you may have noticed that. He deduced that this had something to do with the sun going down. There is a lot of scientific evidence that darkness and the sun going down are positively correlated. This can be proven with various statistical methods, which many of you are familiar with, but which we can't go into here.
We don't have time.
We
really don't have time.
And this is serious. Intrigued, Greg analyzed a month's worth of sunrise and sunset data gathered from the internet and discovered something, well, it's truly terrifying. The next minute or so may be disturbing to some viewers, so if you have little children or if you yourself or a child, we suggest you turn off your computer. Thank you. If you look at this slide, you can see what Greg saw. That's right, the time that the sun sets is getting earlier and earlier. But what is really shocking is that the time the sun rises is getting later and later. This is really bad news. In our next slide, as you can see from the trend chart on the right-hand side, if you trend both the sunrise and the sunset, you will see that they meet. The numbers don't lie here, folks. On July 4th of 2013, sunrise and sunset will occur at exactly the same time. It's Armageddon.
Wow. Is that really going to happen?
No. This is a great tongue-in-cheek column on what happens if you don't understand how to collect data or don't fully understand the context of the data you've collected. Our columnist, Davis Balistracci, has written on this at length. In this case, the data is correct. These are real sunrise and sunset numbers for 1 month out of the year. To try to draw a conclusion from such a small amount of data without understanding the system as a whole will lead you to some interesting results. In this case, the data set we were talking about should be the workings of our entire solar system and our lunar cycle. Of course, if you look at a year's worth of data, as we see on this next slide, you see something completely different where you see, obviously the days get longer and shorter as we go through the year. You can't take a trend out of this, out of a very short period of time, and extrapolate from it. We had a few comments on this story. My favorite is this one from Jeff. Greg, thanks for the timely heads up on the impending end of sunshine. I sold all my solar stocks and was on my way to Walmart to load up on wind-up flashlights when I became concerned about another disturbing trend here where I live, the gradual decline in the average temperature over the last few weeks. Using your model as inspiration, my calculations show that we will freeze to death before we run out of light. Apocalyptically yours, Jeff. It's a great story. Greg Fox is he's a very good writer over at Minitab, and he made a great case for what happens if you don't understand how you're collecting the data and how you're using it. You can end up with some really absurd assumptions. And this is kind of one of Davis's big things he talks about all the time. You can plot the dots, but you got to know what dots you're plotting.
You got to, yeah, you got to have a bigger picture in mind.
You got to have a bigger picture in mind. Well, look, all good things come to an end, sometimes sooner than we want, like maybe July 4th, 2013. And today's show is at an end. So thanks to Anthony Burns, Michelle LaBrosse, and Greg Fox for interesting content this week. And also thanks to Paul Cotton of the NCQA for joining us for a little minute and letting us chat with him just briefly about Obamacare. We hope you all enjoyed the show. Be sure to tune in next week. So long.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you.
It was fun.
Bye.